What's up, everyone? I hope you all are having a very wonderful and blessed day. And if not, I would like to say thank you for stopping by the channel and checking out today's video because it definitely means a lot to me and I very much appreciate it. Now, if you're enjoying the content that you're seeing here and you wouldn't mind continuing to help support not only me but the channel as well, please feel free to hit that like and subscribe button and make sure to hit the bell icon so you can stay updated on all of my future content. Now, today we are going to be talking about which character could be right for you in Marvel's Midnight Suns. So the current roster is 13 heroes, including the Hunter, which is your own created character. And we're going to be going all of them. Now, first up on our list, we have the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So Spidey, I would say, is more suited for a hit and run kind of playstyle, right? His damage output may not necessarily be as high as someone like Captain Marvel or Blade, but he's one of, if not the best, at using the environment as a weapon and being a solid control character. His passive even grants him the chance of having any heroism spent on an environmental attack returned to him. Now, he's not really a great single target hero, but in terms of crowd control and clearing the field, he's definitely better suited to clear the way for some of the heavy hitters to come through, right? Being able to use certain attacks without paying heroism and gaining extra damage and free card plays, being able to target enemies everywhere on the field after using only one card, finishing off normal enemies to keep the field clear and lessen the amount of damage that you'll receive next turn, and helping to keep the stronger ones in check with moves like Bind, which could definitely come in handy against enemies with a frenzy effect. Spidey is definitely somebody that I would suggest if you're looking to do a lot while doing very little, because like his whole thing just revolves around using everything you possibly can to your advantage, right? So other heroes, other villains, knocking other enemies into enemies, their environment. If it can be used, it can be turned into a weapon and it can provide some type of damage. That's essentially what he is. Spider-Man, I would say, is a very decent character, so I would definitely recommend trying him out if you like crowd control AoE type characters. Now, moving on to Captain America, right? The heart of the Avengers. For all of my beefy boys out there, those who like being a tank and blazing the path forward for their team, this is the character for you. Captain America is all about soaking up as much damage as possible, helping to take the stress off of his team and opening them up to various things like counterattacks through actions like taunt, which he himself uses, which is an action that forces an enemy to target you and no one else, and also being able to draw a lot of cards and generating some decent heroism. So he could pair well with someone like Iron Man or even the Hunter, who has cards that can double your heroism to give you an even bigger reserve to pull from whenever it's time for your heroic cards to come into play. Like, for example, if you just pulled Iron Man's air superiority card in hand, that is definitely a great card to have because it damages everybody on the field and it definitely does a fair amount of damage. Now, taunt will be your best friend as Captain America. I can tell you that, like, right now, off the rip. Using taunt as much as you can and soaking up all of that block is going to be very important. And once you start unlocking his passive skills, he'll be able to gain a certain amount of block after every turn, and that amount will begin to increase as the friendship level gets higher and that a passive ability gets upgraded, in which case you will then be able to decide if whether or not you want to flip the switch and go on the offensive. Because a fun thing about this is that Captain America can actually convert any block that he's gathered into extra damage on his moves, which in turn can give you some of the strongest cards in game. So knowing when it's time for defense and when it's time for offense will ensure that you'll have one of the strongest Captain Americas around. Like, for example, you can see in my hand I have two hero combo cards, one at 354 and one at 362, if I can read that correctly. There's a specific Captain America card called the best defense. So any amount of damage that you do for the next so-and-so turns or whatever will allow you to gain block equal to the amount of damage that you dealt. So if you do 57 damage, you will gain 57 block. Now, if he's a part of a hero combo with another character and that hero combo card has 354 damage, he's going to gain 354 block when that is over because he's a part of that combo. That's still him technically doing damage. And then you can convert that 354 damage into block. No, sorry. you can convert that 354 block back into damage. There we go. So yeah, he's definitely a fun character to mess around with. I'm definitely going to be giving him more of a try, and you might want to give him a try too, you know, if you're a tankish kind of person. So next up would be the Daywalker, Blade himself. So keeping in tune with Blade's nature as a solo hero, that is heavily reflected in his playstyle. For those gamers out there who love being the hero, the ace of the team, someone that can be trusted to get the job done, even if you have to do it alone. In other words, if all you really do is here to hit hard, and carry hard, then Blade is for you. Blade is a character that doesn't really cost much in the way of heroism, but he also doesn't help to generate heroism either. He's a character that does more for himself than others, so having him as the anchor and then having other teammates that could be there to help set him up for things like major damage and so on and so forth, I would say might be the way to go with him. With his bleed status effect, you will have enemies taking damage every turn, and then you can follow up with abilities that will deal increased damage to bleeding enemies, or simply doing extra damage to enemies that have already been damaged that turn. He's also a pretty good chain attacker as well, both him, Wolverine, and Spidey, right? Imagine attacking half of the field with just him all in one turn, and then you put the nail in the coffin by killing all of them just because of the bleed effect that's coming from the attack that you applied, right? Plus whatever outside help you may have had from your teammates. It's pretty cool. If you want to hit first and ask questions later, Blade is definitely your guy. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the baddest witch on the planet, Scarlet Witch. Now, if you're the kind of person that's more in the area of being able to control the surrounding field and making everything respond to you instead of vice versa, then this is who you should be looking at. Wanda excels in dealing AoE damage while also having some very strong support options on the side, but due to the nature of how she plays, you may have to put her in harm's way from time to time. So the most important thing about Wanda is definitely her positioning, because a good majority of her attacks do have a certain radius, and that radius, however, can be increased with things like the Unleashed ability, which is a card of hers. I would say she's in the area of Spidey in terms of not really being a great single target hero like some others, but she's still definitely strong in her own right, being able to hand out buffs and debuffs to being able to hand out buffs to teammates and debuffs to any enemies close to her at the start of her turn through the use of her passive skill. Having some abilities become stronger each time they're used, like for example Hex Chain, being able to convince enemies to attack each other. I have a card, an upgraded card that it will force all enemies in the area to attack each other, and there's also a 50% chance that when that card is played, those enemies will attack a second time. So I would say, yeah, like once you really get the hang of her and you really find like a suitable setup for her, Wanda is definitely going to be a late game monster in my opinion, and you might want to check her out. Now next up we have James Howlett, aka Logan, aka Wolverine. So Wolverine is another tankish character in the game, right? In MOBA terms, like Overwatch for example, if Cap is the team's main tank, due to him primarily protecting and soaking up damage, Wolverine would be the off tank, right? He's still there, someone who's there to soak up as much damage as possible and helping out his teammates with things like taunt, but he definitely has more options in the way of being able to go on the offensive to help out the rest of the team. Now he's someone that can operate in the realm of high single target damage and chain attacks. If you're choosing a single target with an ability that has a full combo effect and you can gain an additional effect on that one enemy, like vulnerable, which makes them take 50% more damage. If you're looking at more than one enemy when you're targeting, then he's just gonna bounce between every single target, and that full combo effect won't go off because you're not using it on one person, you're using it on multiple. Now his healing factor is his passive, right? And that is insane. It can also be upgraded, for example, as you know your friendship grows with him. So so the way that it works, right? You will regain health every time a Wolverine card is redrawn, right? You regain health every time a Wolverine card is redrawn, and that's on top of him already having lifesteal attached to his cards as well. So having someone else with him, like maybe Nico or the Hunter, having someone else with him with healing options, that can help focus on. Actually, no, a wonderful team for him would be Hunter and Iron Man, because Hunter would be able to help keep him sustained with the heals, and Iron Man would be able to also help stack redraws so that Wolverine could continuously keep on healing with the more redraws that he has on that turn. He's more than a very stable and solid self-sustainable character, right? He's been a lot of fun. If you're looking for an off tank that can definitely dish out a lot of hard damage, Wolverine would be your guy. Now, one more thing, right? Let's say if he dies in battle, you can draw a card from his deck specifically to revive him, but the card only spawns in your deck once per fight when he dies. So don't be too reckless, right? Even though he is a strong self-sustaining hero, he can still get blicked. It's not hard at all. Now, moving over to another tankish character, we have the Cosmic Avenger herself, Captain Marvel. Now, Carol, I would say, is behind Logan and Captain America, and also another character, right? And just in my own personal opinion, because she starts off slow with her build-ups of binary, and binary is a very important thing for her. So her binary meter is a mechanic that was made just for her, right? You fill it by playing 3 of her cards, and once filled, you will gain a free card called Go Binary. This doubles her offense and gives her a large amount of block, but whenever she runs out of block, she loses binary. Now, there are cards that can give you more block, but it's kind of hard to keep consistent due to the fact that she does taunt enemies a lot, and that constant pressure could tear through your binary in as little as a single turn if you're not essentially careful, right? So I feel like putting her last on my list was a decent choice, just because she can block and taunt just like Captain America. Logan can't block, he can only taunt, but also due to binary, she does have a higher output than Logan, right? Being able to protect teammates and also setting them up to counterattack while playing around her binary meter. It means that there will be times where y'all have an all-in-one damage dealer, and there are times where you will have a solid protector on the field. So Carol can essentially switch back and forth between that. It's just, again, the only reason why I have her at the bottom is just because of how much it takes to upkeep that binary meter. But you guys might like her. She's definitely a very strong character. It might just be me necessarily not really finding the right setup for her, the right team setup for her to use her properly. So that could just be on me. But it is what it is. Moving on to the next character, however, right? Nico Minoru, best character in the game, leader of the Runaways and the Midnight Suns. Now, Nico is a support character that can also deal a lot of high damage, and her kit also includes a certain mechanic called Roulette, which contains a random effect that was determined whenever the card was drawn. So Nico essentially has another level of randomness with her Roulette effect due to her playstyle on top of the card system already as a whole. So I would say it's definitely a 50-50 in terms of knowing what Nico can do to start off with, but it's a toss-up on what comes next. Now, the randomness of Roulette can be controlled to a certain extent by picking the right moment to use a certain ability, the types of enemies that she targets and how they're positioned. Like, for example, Witch Storm is a move that targets 4 times either on one person if they're the only one in the area, or it can target multiple people. So like, let's say, for example, you can either target one person 4 times, or you can target 2 people 2 times and get like an even amount of damage, which could possibly help you out. Like, once you get used to it, there are definite ways to work that randomness into your favor. Another thing that she's also very good at, that she excels at, is generating heroism. So Blood Magic, which is a card that generates 2 heroism, will let you apply 1 or 2 effects. You can get 2 Blood Magic, which is basically lifesteal. You or an ally will gain counter, fast, and strengthen. And you can also draw a card for that hero. Now, her passive even enables her to draw extra cards later on down the line. For example, at level 1, when her health is at 100%, she has a 33% chance to draw a card when a Nico card is played. And once you get to level 2, that health requirement is removed. So whenever you play a Nico card, you have a 33% chance to get another card of hers. Now, she even has another card called Double Up, which can generate a copy of each attack, heroic, or skill card in hand. So it definitely seems like she would work great with people like Spidey, who can excel in the area of free card plays, or Captain America, who can proceed to consistently build more block just to add on to his overall total. Now, when played right, again, you can work her randomness into your favor, and I have the feeling that she's going to be behind a lot of powerful team combinations. Now, next up is the latest soul to inhabit the spirit of vengeance, Robbie Reyes. So Ghost Rider, as it stands, may just be the strongest damage dealer in the game, even though it does come with a cost. Now, this man here excels, in all caps, at single and multi-target damage as well as self-healing. Now, Rider does, however, come with his own mechanic known as the Souls Meter. So with each kill, Ghost Rider fills the Soul Meter, and once it's full, you will instantly draw a Drain Souls card, which lets you damage multiple targets and perform lifesteal on every single one of them. Every time Drain Soul is used, all Drain Souls will increase the amount of enemies that it can target by 1, and its heroism will also proceed to go up by 1. I think the highest I've ever gotten so far was, 7 targets at once, I believe. There's a lot of health coming my way. Now, because Rider is so powerful, his heroism cost is high. So pairing him with someone like Iron Man that can essentially double the amount of heroism you have would be a great thing to do, because on one hand, stacking as much heroism as possible so Ghost Rider can go to work is important, but on the other hand, these abilities will either damage himself or his allies, so he's definitely going to need some solid support in order to not only keep him protected but also stocked on health whenever he's not able to take action, right? His passive also allows him to increase his maximum health as he fills the Souls Meter. So check this out. Rider can proceed to convert his health into damage. The more health you pull from his pool, the stronger the attacks will be. Kills will generate souls for his meter, and every time the meter fills, his health gets an upgrade, although I do believe there's a limit to how many times that can actually happen inside of a mission. Now, a bigger health pool means that you're going to have a much bigger reserve of that health to convert into massive damage. The trick is just simply not getting him killed in the process, because I imagine some of y'all actually will. Being able to increase the damage of an ability just by holding on to a card and letting him take damage, being able to wipe out tons of enemies in a direct line, though at the cost of your entire hand. I feel like a lot of people are going to love Ghost Rider and what he brings to the table. I also feel like a lot of people are definitely going to get him killed on accident after playing him for the first time. Now, next up, we have the Queen of Limbo herself, Magik. Now that I say that, right, she's also the queen of repositioning, so to say, right? Magik is definitely a great pick for somebody that wants to simply force the flow of gameplay in their favor, seeing as how her portals are definitely an important part of her combat and a large number of her attacks having knockback as well. Positioning is just as important with her as it is with other characters like Scarlet Witch. Now, she's also a decent single target hero as well. Now, her main area is primarily support, being able to control the flow of a fight by forcing enemies to swap places. One of her main cards allows her to place a portal for free, and any action that she takes that has a knockback effect, and I do mean any action at all, will send someone through a portal into whatever could be out waiting on the other side, which would be wherever you decided to place the portal. It could be into an explosive, into a drop, into an enemy, into a wall, or whatever it is you wish. There's even a card that alters the portal, so any enemy that goes through it, any one of your portals will take, like, for example, 96 extra damage on top of whatever damage comes from after they exit the portal and hit something on the other side. She's even able to cheat the game and summon a 4th hero from the Abbey, and her passive ability gives her a chance to draw a copy of Limbo Portal, which is a free card after knocking an enemy through a previous portal of hers. Magik is definitely treading the line between support and damage, being able to dish it out herself and repositioning enemies to better spots for your other heroes like Ghost Rider to line up a hell attack and take out loads of people at once. She's definitely somebody I feel is going to be very useful in terms of in-game meta and so on and so forth, right? Especially with her ultimate Dark Child, which essentially lets her become invincible for a single turn, and she can taunt every enemy on the field. She taunts every enemy, and she won't take any damage. Like it's great. Her ult is nice. Now, Doctor Strange, right? The Sorcerer Supreme. Now, for all of my flex players out there in the world, this is for you. Now, Strange is primarily a support character, but his attacks can become more powerful based on the amount of heroism he has. So you get this much of a damage increase when you have a minimum of 4 heroism, and you can get this much of a damage increase when you have a minimum of 6 heroism, and so on and so forth, right? He's also able to generate large amounts of heroism with his abilities, and in return, his abilities, like I just said, will become enhanced version of themselves due to that minimum amount. The Doctor is also able to do extra things like being able to draw cards from your deck and cards that you've already played again, pulling them back to your hand, protecting your allies with things like conceal, buffing their damage, and more. His passive even gives him an increasing chance of generating heroism at the start of every turn. He might just be the best support in game as of right now, simply due to how flexible he is. Like I am not joking. I really don't have much else to say about Strange other than this man is not to be trifled with. If you're a support playing character and you want to go with one of the best possible options out there on the field, Doctor Strange is definitely who you should be looking at. Now, next up is Iron Man, who's been a favorite of mine so far. Even my buddy Revealing Too Much said that after playing the game, yeah, he's very happy that Iron Man's in the game now, because this man can do a lot, right? So Tony and Strange have a special name for themselves, which comes from the comics in the game. I believe it's along the line of the awesome facial hair bros, if I'm correct. While Strange is a master in the field of magic, Tony is a master in the field of technology. And the reason I'm saying this is because Tony can do it all. And I'm pretty sure, you know, if he was talking to you instead, he would say the exact same thing. AoE damage, single target damage, repositioning, so on and so forth. Supporting the team and giving out block to either himself or his teammates. But it does have to all be done through redraws. That's the only thing. Redraws are pretty much his bread and butter. Most of his abilities have that phrase, redraw to upgrade, which can do various things, like turning a knockback into a forceful knockback, gaining 2 fast effects, redrawing to add on extra damage, redrawing to add block, redraw to add heroism. He can actually do it all. Like he is like both him and Strange are very solid flex characters. So if you're playing around with the ability to redraw and he's on the team, right? Iron Man should be the main focus, so to say. His passive allows him to generate his own redraws. So having like 6 to 8 redraws in a mission through the mix of things like combat items and other cards and Iron Man's perks himself is very well possible. He would pair well with Wolverine, because since Iron Man is consistently able to generate extra redraws, not only can Iron Man benefit from that, Wolverine can benefit from that as well, because again, Logan, his self-healing ability works off redrawing his own cards. So like that's definitely like a fun little team up that you can do right there. He works well with most other heroes in general, so it shouldn't really be hard finding a team composition for him to fit into. Now next up we have the Hunter, your created character. So the Hunter has 3 different branches. You got light, dark, and power. Now you can become a support character or a high damage dealer, or you can find a space in the middle that you like myself. I mean, I'm mostly light, but my deck is definitely a mix of all 3 branches. Light focuses primarily on healing and generating heroism. Dark revolves around dealing damage and minor crowd control, but at a cost to you and your team, similar to what Ghost Rider does. And power is essentially just all about providing both offensive and defensive options. Now, your passive is pretty much centered around collars that will unlock over the course of the game, and they're triggered by playing abilities of a certain type. Of a certain type, and sometimes in a certain order. It depends on what the description is. Like for example, the next Hunter attack card played is not discarded, which means that you can use that card twice. But in order to get that effect, you need to play 3 light cards first to activate that passive. So guess what? Your Hunter also has 2 passives, and the second one is actually tied to the suit that you're going to be wearing. So you're going to have a passive with the suit and a passive with the collar. Here, example, light attacks and heroics will have a greatly increased chance to be critical when drawn, based off the suit's passive effect. Now, I won't really go in too deep on the Hunter, because I do want you guys to be able to experience some stuff for yourself. So I'll stop it there. But I definitely think you guys are gonna like the options that the hunter has, because they have 3 times as many cards as anyone else in the game. So there's definitely gonna be some viable decks that you're gonna be able to make. But wait, you didn't think I forgot about our Jolly Green Giant, did you? If you made it this far in the video, because I know some of y'all might have clicked off already, it's cool. If you've managed to, make it this far, I appreciate you. Thank you for sticking with me. We're gonna go ahead and talk about the big man himself, Hulk. Now, the big guy has the ability to surpass every other character in damage. He, like him and Ghost Rider, might be tying in this area. But, as Hulk's typical nature is, you have to make him mad first. So Hulk has a rage mechanic, and he gains a point of rage every single time he takes damage. And each point he gets will increase his damage output. However, Hulk also uses a point of his rage each time he performs an attack or a heroic attack. So, like, just waiting and soaking up attacks and building that rage meter in turn, like, in order to get like the best use out of his rage mechanic would definitely be the smart move in that area. Now, a lot of his abilities do have taunt attached to them as well, not simply just because he's a tank, but also because it makes sense, because his rage meter grows from taking damage. So you're gonna want as many people targeting him as possible, so you can grow that rage meter quickly. Like, if you do it right, you could possibly gain all 5 bars of your rage meter within a single turn. So to say, Hulk in general has a very high health pool, but you still have to be careful, because 7 or 10 enemies all targeting him at once will definitely take a sizable chunk of his health away, and you have to make sure that he doesn't die in the process of you essentially trying to buff his damage, even if he does have the highest health pool in the game. He also uses a lot of heroism as well, so having other heroes that can generate heroism for him and doesn't really use a lot would be the best pairing, because then Hulk would truly be able to run free on the field. He is proficient in multi-target damage, knockback, and stuns. 2 big things about him: he does not have a passive mechanic, but he also can't be injured in combat like everyone else, so he has that going for him, because I spoke upon this in a previous video. If you sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Whenever a hero of yours takes too much damage, they will gain 1 of 3 injury types. You got mild, you got moderate, and severe. And then depending on how bad the injury is, that's how long it's gonna take that hero to repair. Like 1, 2, 3 days. But if you put them in combat therapy, it'll only take them a day. You'll never have to worry about that with Hulk, because he doesn't get injured like everyone else. So I feel like that's pretty cool. Like they showing the big guy some extra love. But with all that being said, that brings us to the end of this video. Hopefully this has been able to, help you guys come to a decision on who it is you want to try out first in Marvel's Midnight Suns, or at the very least, it's giving you a general idea of who you want to test out, if maybe you haven't come to a solid pick yet. But I hope that, this video has been helpful, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you did, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and smack that notifications bell so that you'll never miss out on any of my future Midnight Suns related content. And I will catch y'all in the moonlight. Peace.